Okay, so welcome everyone. We're here this evening with DuPont talking about experience as a student, co-op, intern, and young engineer in the world of work. And we're here with VCU students who are able to ask questions through the chat or the Q&A box. So students who are on the call, please feel free to ask questions at the end of each round of questions that we ask the panelists. And also at the very end of the event, we'll take more questions. And with that, I am going to stop talking and hand it over to our panel moderator, who is Oscar Martin.
All right. Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? All right. So I will.
Doing well.
Great. So, for folks on the call here, just want to introduce our distinguished panelists for the evening. So I will start with Arthur Stryker. Arthur, introduce yourself to the group.
All right. Well, my name is Arthur Stryker. I graduated from VCU with a BS in mechanical engineering in December of 2018. Prior to that, I did 3 co-op rotations with DuPont. First was with Building Innovations, which was Tyvek applications development for weatherization systems. So basically looking at different applications for home wrap and that kind of thing. My second rotation was with Kevlar applications, doing work in the ballistics lab. And then my third rotation was with cargo covers, which was a different Tyvek applications program. Upon starting full-time, I am working in the defense segment doing Kevlar applications research. Doing pretty much all my work now is in the ballistics lab.
All right. Thank you, Arthur. Next, we'll turn it over to Roderick. Tell us about yourself, Roderick.
Thank you, Oscar. So my name is Roderick. I'm actually a current student still, so majoring in mechanical engineering with a minor in mathematics and general business. I've had the pleasure to co-op twice at DuPont. My first rotation, similar to Arthur, was with the Building Innovations team, now referred to as the Performance Building Solutions team. And then my second rotation was strictly research and development with the Tyvek team for lines 1 and 2. Outside of that, I also had a couple other co-op and internships experiences. Ultimately decided to join the DuPont team as part of their field engineering rotation program, where I start this June as a reliability engineer in Buffalo, New York.
All right. Thanks, Roderick. And we'll turn it over to Susie. Susie, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Susie McLeod. I graduated from VCU this past May 2020, with a degree in mechanical engineering. So I did 3 co-op rotations as a student. My first was in Nomex process control on the fiber side. I did work with their HMI screens with VBScript and also a Honeywell control builder logic blocks. My second rotation was in Tyvek lines 1 and 2 MT. I did a lot of work with their quality team in the in-area lab. So it's kind of just making sure our site and our sister site were aligned with our measurements on the testing equipment. And then my last rotation was in Tyvek protective apparel. My main project on that was to develop a testing method on the Instron following ASTM standards for a new product that was coming out, the TyChem tape. And then for full-time, I started this past August within the field engineering program. My current role is on the transformation team. So my work isn't exactly engineering, but I am on the maintenance side and with the maintenance work processes. So the work our team is doing is to standardize the organizational design in tools and work practices among the water and protection sites globally.
All right. Thank you so much, Susie. And let's turn it over to another one of our invisible panelists here. Jake Pretko, tell us who you are.
I'm Jake Pretko. I've been with DuPont for 15 years now. I co-opt mostly in Kevlar manufacturing, but also a little bit through intellectual property and the business center. And I've kind of done a bunch of different jobs ever since. Today, I am a research investigator in new process development.
All right. Thank you, Jake. My name is Oscar Martin. I'm a technology manager at DuPont. Also a VCU grad. Got my PhD in chemical engineering in 2009. I was a DuPont co-op back in the 1990s. Won't take you that far back, but I've been with DuPont for 20 plus years in different roles, from research and development, marketing, supply chain, and a number of years in technology leadership. So with that being said, I think we've taken care of all of the housekeeping stuff, so we will jump right into the session. So panelists, are you ready? All right, I see the thumbs up. All right, so we'll go straight in. So the first question is for Arthur. So Arthur, obviously DuPont is a recognized and elite employer with a long history of organizational success and stability. It's pretty hard to get a co-op there. So what is it about your resume, your experience, your interview, and the job process that you think helped you land the job there?
First I'll start out by basically telling people that I was pretty much a non-traditional student when I did the engineering program at VCU. I was actually a career switcher. So my prior career had been in archaeology and history, which I worked in for about 13 years, which, while it's not related to engineering, it did give me a pretty solid background in just in the working world. Especially since I had a number of supervisory roles working in that area. So I feel like that definitely helped my resume stand apart from some of the other students that I was competing with who just hadn't had an opportunity for that kind of real world experience that I had had. Beyond that, I approached the interview process, I think, with a fairly relaxed attitude. I didn't feel like I was acting desperate to get the job or anything like that. So I think it kind of helped my mindset while speaking with the interviewers to just kind of be relaxed about it and go with the flow of the interview process instead of trying to force the issue or talk about stuff that didn't necessarily need to be talked about.
Great. Thank you, Arthur. Kind of piggybacking off of that, if you will. So Roderick, I know you're still technically a student, right? So what would you recommend to students who are interested in being hired at DuPont?
I would say one is to be diversified as much as you can be, right? So I know we talked to a lot of freshmen and sophomores earlier today during the professional development class. And the biggest thing is, even if you don't have that core technical engineering discipline or experience that you think DuPont wants, it's really okay, because as long as you're kind of like putting in the effort to get those volunteer experiences, whether or not it's in tutoring, whether or not it's in your college organization, I think that's the biggest thing, at least for me, that helped with my interview and also landing a job and CoOp experience with DuPont. Because I was able to leverage different maybe soft skills that I had from my engineering with like NSBE or working with the Career Ambassador program. Like those soft skills helped me get into like the engineering skills that I wanted to learn with DuPont.
Great. Thank you, Roderick. So we'll circle over to you, Susie, if that's okay. I know you briefly talked about some of the work experience that you've had at DuPont, right? All sounds very interesting. Practically speaking, what projects do you work on, and how does it translate or connect to the to society as a whole? And talk about the relevancy.
Yeah, so what I'm working on right now is basically all the maintenance work processes. So I'm working on it's kind of like also understanding people and how people work, and because it's designing it but also kind of implementing it. So a lot of it is just kind of working with people. So I think that's the main thing. But the kind of the practices we're doing, is kind of the planning, the scheduling, and performing of maintenance. I've started work on the MICA, the mechanical integrity and quality assurance process. Also reliability engineering and MRO, maintenance, repairs and operations supplies. So it's kind of that's like where the concentration is for me. So, but I think with a lot of the work I'm doing, it's kind of just understanding people and how they work and just kind of driving the change.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Pretko, what classes or activities in school when you were around have been the most helpful in your work today?
Oh, that is you got to bring up ancient history there, don't you? Yeah, I'd say for my work today, I do a lot I don't necessarily do the calculations, but I do a lot with fluid dynamics and particularly material science, crystal structures, mechanics of materials, that type of stuff. It translates very, very well. Yeah.
All right, so the Fourier transforms, theorems, and all that stuff, applicability there?
Absolutely, and not necessarily the like I said, the pencil to paper doing the calculations, but understanding the concepts and what happens when you have extensional flow and high shear environments and things like that, and being able to think through how would a crystal deform really under certain loads really makes all the difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, we're going to circle back to you, Arthur. Okay, let's see. What attributes or skills have contributed to your success on the job at DuPont?
I think one of the major things that has really helped is a real strong attention to detail. That was something that I think in my first year I got assigned to work with one of the senior research.
Still there?
For not really trusting people with his. Oh, sorry about that. He's kind of notorious for not trusting other people with running his tests or handling his data. And I think that I demonstrated to him that by virtue of my attention to detail, that I could work to his expectation and to provide him with data that he was comfortable with. So I think that was really important. Also, just overall tenacity, determination to see projects through. Those are always going to be important life skills in general. So applying that to the work environment is going to be critical no matter what.
Absolutely, absolutely. Roderick, I know you're pretty close to the finish line. So, so is there anything you wish you had done differently during your college experience that would have better prepared you for this transition to the workplace?
Anything different? I think I would have started probably a CoOp experience sooner if possible, or started looking into like volunteering into like a research lab sooner than when I did. I think I came on with DuPont about 3 semesters in, and it was the most gratifying experience because most of the stuff that I learned with DuPont and my other CoOp experiences, I learned before I actually was introduced to the material in class, like in the curriculum. So it was beneficial because after I come back into the class to actually take the courses like fluids, thermodynamics, heat transfer, for example, I had already been exposed to a lot of the principles. So it was very easy to connect the dots and understand the material a lot easier. So I would say that's probably like one of the biggest things that I liked about co-oping, in the sense that I do get to, expose myself to different areas prior to even learning it. And even further, I know with my second rotation, I was introduced to electrical engineering. So from a mechy standpoint, just being exposed to different principles like electrostatics inspired me to take those courses when I came back as a technical elective. So that's the biggest thing. So if anything different, I would have done it a lot sooner.
Gotcha. All right, thank you, Roderick. So back to you, Susie. Culture is obviously important. Changing times, a lot of emphasis and a lot of things going on with regard to that and culture. Talk a little bit about the culture at DuPont, and how does that culture compare to the culture that you maybe heard about from your friends or colleagues at other companies?
Yeah, so I feel like when you first walk in, at least at Spruance, it's so old, you see this old building, and that's kind of like your first experience. But then when you actually start talking to people and seeing how warm and welcoming everyone is, I think that's kind of the true experience. And also, even when I started virtually, like, the first few months, seeing the DE&I conferences that were going on and the panelists and that discussion, so seeing how that was embraced, the plant manager kind of, sponsoring some of that work. And then also just kind of other things that are going on, like with the YPN and United Way of the charity. So I think just like how welcoming everyone is and how quick they are to let you kind of take positions. So, because even with the YPN, I'm now on one of their committees. And so people are kind of warm and welcoming and I guess looking for people to succeed.
And so Susie, for some of the students on the call who may not be quite as familiar with a lot of these DuPont acronyms.
Oh yeah, so DE&I is diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then the YPN is the Young Professionals Network.
Well, we're speaking of future DuPonters, so I'm acclimated early on. All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Pretko, talk a little bit about your transition from being a co-op to becoming a full-time employee, and how different were the levels of responsibilities and pace of work?
Sure. So it was, I kind of had a little bit of an extra challenge in the fact that, so when I co-op, the co-op program was a little bit different, right? So I was the Kevlar MT co-op, and when I hired into Kevlar MT. So that being the case, like, it was a bit of a challenge to kind of break the mindset of people sometimes of that Jake's the co-op, right? Having said that, I mean, I was never I was never like mistreated. It's just the level of responsibility that you're assumed to have when you're a co-op versus when you're full-time is a little different. But having said that, with all kind of negatives, there's also a positive in that I had worked with a lot of operators at the time, and when I was a co-op, they were very open and very honest, and just really very willing to kind of open up and show me how their job is done, and even let me do it. And in a union environment, it's a little rare. But because I kind of made that transition, and a lot of them had shown me how to how to do some of the hands-on things that they need to know how to do. It made it really easy, in their eyes, to just kind of trust me right off the bat and go. So it's on one hand, you're really wanting to be a real engineer, right? Like Pinocchio, I'm a real boy. But on the other hand, the transition, I feel like a lot of that was just in my head. And in terms of like the actual amount of responsibility, I'll say, like, when I was a co-op, I feel like they did a really good job. My boss at the time, Dave Smye, who retired years ago now, had he had taken me out onto the spin floor and said, "Look, this is your spinning machine. Whatever needs to be done, you do it. If you need help, then we're there to help you." And when I hired on full time, he took me out, but instead of one spinning machine, it was, here's an entire section of the building. This is yours, and if anything goes wrong, you need to fix it.
All right. All right, so we have one final round of questions, short answer, but kind of just put folks on the spot here, because these questions weren't on or part of the original deck here. So I'm really going to test the panelists here, think on their feet. All right, so Mr. Stryker, talk to the team a little bit about the importance of working in teams in the real world.
Working in like teams of colleagues, correct? Not Microsoft Teams.
Okay. Team of colleagues, correct.
You should have said first one, then the other.
Yeah. I can't overstate it. There's so much that goes into that level of collaboration, and especially at a place like DuPont, where there's a level of institutional knowledge that you're just not going to get walking in and reading a couple of standard operating procedures or something like that. There are people that have been doing this job for decades, and being able to work side by side with them and listen to their perspective and their take on, you know, what it is you're doing and why you might do it this way versus another way, is just invaluable as a new employee. And then also knowing that you can rely on the other people around you to, you know, if you run into a snag or you have a question about something, you can talk to them about it and, you know, get honest feedback. It's just a really great feeling to know that that's going to, you know, be there to kind of back you up and when you're, you know, trying to get something accomplished.
Great, great. Couldn't have stayed any better. Roderick, all right, you know, you're close to the finish line, like I said before, and obviously, you know, you knew you wanted to be an engineer. Now you're transitioning to the real world. How do you, or how does a student, or what would you recommend to a student as pertains to, you know, if I want to go into, let's say, R&D or manufacturing or technical or engineering, or so how do you make that distinction? Should you be flexible? Should you know exactly what you want to do? Talk us through that thought process.
No problem, Oscar. So I would definitely say be flexible and be open-minded. One of the things that I always strive to do is be curious, both in engineering and outside of engineering. The reason being, so some of the author, I am fairly non-traditional college student. So I'm a transfer student. Initially, I was doing aerospace engineering. So that was my go-to straight out of high school, coming from the Governor's Engineering Academy. I was like, yes, aerospace engineering. So then I come to VCU, mechanical engineering program, and I'm trying like the nuclear out. I'm trying, you know, as time passes, electrical engineering out. I'm trying, you know, general business, all of these different minors to see, okay, what is it that I like? And then I'm also doing the same thing when I'm out there on the floor or in my co-op and internship experiences. Even though I may just have, you know, a current rotation and process improvement, I'm sticking around and talking to the process control guys. I'm talking to the operators. I'm talking to the managers, the floor leads. I'm trying to be as curious as possible because you don't know what you don't know. So without getting that firsthand experience or allowing yourself to get an experience that's different than what you may think, you would never know that you like something a little bit better, right? So that's the biggest thing is be curious in all that you do. Be curious on how you approach and don't think just because you like one thing that that's the best thing, especially early on in your career. Even if you like it, good, put a note in it and try something else because you may find out that you like it a little bit more or that you're able to be a benefit to the company as a whole a little bit more than what you originally thought.
Great. Thank you, Roderick. Miss McLeod, have you experienced any generational challenges, and are there fellow staff members in your age range in your work area?
I would say I haven't experienced any generational challenges just because I like to get along with everyone for my own personality. And I also have a background working in restaurants. So just from that, you have to learn to work with everyone, any sort of personality, any sort of age. So from that perspective, no challenges. But I guess with work, you know, everything's been virtual the first like 5 months that I was working. So it's hard to even know the age of everyone with the cameras off. So, but I just actually did start working back at the plant though in person, in January. So going into site, which is kind of nice. Kind of there's a few people in the hallway, not too many, and of course the 6 feet away and masks on. But I would say I haven't had any challenges. I feel like my personal experience is like everyone's been really welcoming and kind of just the need to want everyone to succeed. And so I think that's kind of really the importance that you're working with a team of people that are supportive of you. And they're looking out and wanting you to succeed in what you're doing.
So did you find a lot of mentors that were willing to help you and help navigate you on projects and that type of thing?
Definitely. And I feel like when you're a co-op, like you can find more mentors than just your assigned mentor. And that's kind of also a way to get more projects and just learn about more people. Because especially like in the MT role in Tyvek, the whole hallway was like a mentor, people would stop by and talk. And I think that kind of experience is really kind of what made me want to go full time at DuPont, is kind of just seeing that you can find mentors that aren't even assigned to you, everyone's there.
Cool. Mr. Pretko, what does sustainability mean to you, and what does it mean to DuPont, and what do we have going on?
So sustainability, like to me, it's not an option really. It's something that you know it should always be the goal of every company really. Like we have to do everything that we can do to make sure that we're providing an actual future for upcoming generations. And if we deplete all of our resources now, then obviously there's not going to be anything left for them, right? I've kind of seen a bit over since 2005. I have the benefit of having been there long enough to see us shift focus a bit. And I'll say is one of the things that I'm proudest of is being able to have or to have business site corporate leadership that are that want to see us reduce like our carbon footprint, reduce our water footprint, make sure that we're not making huge impacts on the exterior environment, because I mean it's more than just bad press, right? It's the bad like it doesn't allow for any future at all if we don't do it right. And DuPont has been very, very committed to it. I shared this story earlier with one of the groups. I don't remember which one it was, but I remember coming up with an idea to. I basically just kind of shifted where we were adding water into a process, and just that little shift alone allowed us to reduce our water usage out of the James River by about 72 gallons a minute. And that's a lot of water, especially when you think that it's been running continuously for the last 11 years that way. And I mean, even though that is a tremendous amount of water, the amount of cost impact on the business is only $1,000 a year or something, whereas this project cost us like $15 or $20,000 to do it. So we're still paying off that project, right? But I still got approval to do that project because it was right along with our core values.
Absolutely. Great example, Jake. 2 weeks, not 2 weeks. Oh my God. Say hello to Jackson.
Hello.
All right. All right. Well, we're at almost at the bottom of the hour. 2 words or less. Final takeaway. What will be the most important takeaway or recommendation you will make to the group? Starting with you, Arthur. 2 words or less.
Do it.
All right.
All right.
Roderick.
Stay curious.
All right. Susie.
Be decisive.
Excellent. And Jake.
Co-op.
Co-op. Excellent. All right. Thank you, panelists. So I think at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, we turn it over to the participants to ask questions for Q&A.
I believe so. Is that right, Laura?
Sure. Yeah, we have one question in the Q&A right now, and asking students who are on the call to please put questions in the Q&A or in the chat. Thank you. Oscar, can you see the Q&A at the bottom of the page?
Let's see.
I know y'all don't use Zoom.
I can read it for you.
Yep, I see it.
Okay, great.
Yep. All right. So Claire asked, I was wondering when a student should be looking to apply co-op. When is the right time to start a co-op?
I don't mind answering. So to answer your question, I would say the sooner the better. Not just for your experience and identifying what you like and don't like and giving more time to explore and discover, but logistically and strategically, when you consider your classes, you have a lot more options your freshman and sophomore year. If you don't take a class in the spring, it's all good. It may still be there in the fall. But as you start to matriculate into your higher courses, like junior year and senior year, some of those courses are only available either one semester or the other. So I would say definitely look into doing it early on, because when you come back, it's just easier to stay on track and still, graduate within that time frame that, is ideal for you.
All right, Roger, let me add a little flavor to that question. Do you see any advantages or disadvantages of interning with different companies, or should you co-op or intern with the same company multiple times?
That's a good question. So I would say whoever's going to give you the best experience that you want. For example, the second company that I was working with, they gave me a manufacturing kind of experience that I didn't have prior with DuPont. DuPont, I was strictly with the research and development team, right? So when it came into deciding, hey, do I want to do a third rotation in the R&D field versus doing something in manufacturing, I took the latter because I want to again remain curious, be diversified. So I think as long as you identify, what you want to do in life and the best path to get there, I say that's the best. But ideally, diversify. Nothing's wrong with diversification. And then it also gives you an opportunity to kind of like test what you think is like the best. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, DuPont is, cream of the crop. I want to go there. But then, if I take something else, I can learn whether or not it's better suited for me. So sometimes going to a different company does have its pros. But obviously DuPont's the best. So
that's right.
Good answer, Roderick.
Anyone else want to take a stab at that one? All right, let's move on to the second question provided by Jordan Thomas. Thank you, Jordan. What are some new set of skills you now have due to the pandemic? So what new skills you didn't have before, but because of the pandemic, you now have?
I, for one, am much more adept at Microsoft Teams.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, I feel like I learn a new skill every day from watching other people. I just found out that you can tag people in the emails too in Outlook. And
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we've now employed a host of different collaboratory tools, whether it's Teams or Miro or just some of the other tools. I mean, Zoom is one here that we're using today because we're now in this new norm where people can't travel. People probably will not travel as much as we did in years past. Look for more modern type of experiences to bring our customers to our laboratories to see product being tested, as opposed to flying teams from one side of the country to another to witness, let's say, for example, our garments being burned in a thermoman unit, right? So definitely to what Jake and Susie said, it's all about virtual meetings, virtual collaborations, and new ways of communicating and having dialogue with our customers. All right, let's see. Any other questions? We only had 2 in the Q&A for now. All right, let's see if there's anything in the dismiss. All right, so that's all we have in the hopper for now, Michelle.
All right, are there questions out there that somebody wants to ask? Just
Oh, we just had another one that come through.
awesome. Okay.
They didn't want to let us go so early.
Nope.
All right. This one came from Samuel Moore. What is the most prominent programming language you've used in your work? Fortran?
I have actually used Fortran, just not at DuPont. That was a previous assignment. I'd say I probably used Visual Basic, particularly VBA. Probably the most. I have used a little bit of Python, but in terms of DuPont, that's about it. I've dabbled in other things for grad school and at home and all that.
What about you, Susie?
same experience for DuPont. It was just a VB script and VBA. But yeah, I had a class at VCU where we did Fortran and then also at home Python. I've been learning that as well, just because I do enjoy coding.
All right. Roderick, what programming language did you learn along the way?
Thankfully, none that I have to apply at work. No, languages wise, do I know any? Yes, so the C++, I learned the Fortran with the new program, Python, of course, here at VCU, we do the MATLAB and the R Studios as well. So are they out there? Yes, but I'm more sold on the actual modeling software. So anything like in the SolidWorks, Autodesk, and simulations like ANSYS, that's my niche.
So Arthur, maybe from a programming perspective, maybe from a system or software perspective, what are some of the systems or tools do we use that that we could share with the students?
Well, like Roderick mentioned, I use a lot of SolidWorks, not necessarily as a defined portion of my job, but there's a lot of small stuff around, especially working around the ballistics range that requires, rapid design, rapid manufacture for like for a new pencil fixture, for example, or something along those lines. So I use SolidWorks for that. Beyond that, most of my work is done honestly in Excel. A little bit of Minitab for statistical analysis, but other than that, I've dabbled a little bit in Python at a personal level, but haven't had really an opportunity for that on the job.
Okay. Great. All right, any other questions for now? Okay, I see another one. Came from Jordan again. What is the best career advice you've ever received?
Jake. Arthur and Jake might laugh at this, but it was probably from Luke telling me to apply to DuPont. So I knew Luke from my restaurant days. And so, he was telling me about DuPont. He was like, come on, just put in your application. So.
For reference, Luke Jeter is the ballistics range manager.
Yes, he's a legend.
For me, like I would say understand the why, right? A lot of older organizations tend to lose that over the years, and I don't mean old like people age wise. I mean old like Kevlar has been being manufactured for coming up on 60 years now, and so when you have an organization that's been around that long, then you have a lot of folks around the plant that like if something goes wrong, they know what they've done in the past, but they might not necessarily know why it is that they're doing it, right? And so if something happens but is subtly different than what they've seen before, I've seen it before where they're kind of at a loss, and so if you're always asking the questions and always asking, well, why is it this way? What's physically happening? Then you can easily help them overcome all of those problems.
Excellent. All right, we have another question that's come into the hopper here from Aaliyah Allen. What are some challenges you faced transitioning from college to the workforce, and how did you overcome them? Susie.
So right now, because I'm at my 6 month full time. So this is like the time where you're ending your co-op or you're ending your semester and you're like, okay, I'm free of all these projects. I'm done, next semester. And so now I'm just kind of like, okay, wait, I'm just like gearing up. I'm just starting. So I think it's just kind of mentally getting myself prepared, like, okay, I have these projects, because the workload, I think, the first 3 months you're still kind of onboarding. And now I think 6 months in is when you are really starting to produce work and kind of really understanding what's going on and how to be successful. So I think it's just kind of also that mental getting over like, okay, I'm actually just starting, I'm not finishing. So I think that's a little bit, I guess, just kind of reaching that 6 month mark and knowing, okay, like keep pushing forward.
Excellent. What about you, Roderick? What are some of the challenges that you anticipate facing as you transition from college to work?
Well, so I would say that I'm blessed due to my opportunities thus far that think, keyword think, that I'm prepared. And the reason being is I think one of the biggest things from working at DuPont in my first two rotations was just knowing how to be accountable. When you're kind of like in the collegiate space, you have a lot of people to, I guess, lean on in assistance. So you have your professors kind of like holding your hand through your coursework, through your homework, through your projects. You have the great College of Engineering career services that help you know navigate the workspace. So you have all these different things that are just presented to you versus when you're in the workspace. Now you have to be accountable, and now you have to kind of like be the active agent to find those resources. So a good point that I brought up earlier today was when I was working with the performance building solutions, and I get this task and I'm staring at my computer probably for a good like 3 days, like, okay, what am I doing? And I'm Googling and I'm searching and I'm just like hitting a roadblock. And then it kind of like, okay, maybe I should be more proactive and reach out to a subject matter expert. Maybe like I should get in my comfort zone. So it's kind of like being accountable in the sense that you're not just don't have everything readily available to you. And you just need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and going out to find the answers.
Excellent, excellent. Jake, let me make sure there's no other question here. Okay. All right, well, Samuel will ask another question. What medium are you expected to use to communicate your findings, both horizontally and vertically?
So like we end up writing reports, right? And the answer to that really depends on how sensitive the material is. Sometimes, a lot of times it's typed up in Microsoft Word or like Microsoft Excel or something like that. Or I mean, I have used a little bit of like MATLAB, but typically, like if it's going to be like if it's being summarized up to really high levels, that you end up writing a white paper that has like there's a lot of business financial stuff in there and some very basic information of findings. But yeah, I mean, it's really just about knowing the audience that you're going to. A lot of times you may converse with somebody who is very technical in their background and follow that up with somebody who is not technical at all. Yeah.
Yep. And Arthur, with you working on, the top secret stuff, talk a little bit about how do we document that?
So my level is a little bit, I think, more down in the trenches than Jake's in a lot of ways, doing the actual technical research. When I communicate horizontally, it's frequently just with Excel, and I will put together a spreadsheet and send that along to other colleagues, and then discuss, usually over the phone or with Teams, the findings and the analysis of those findings, just looking at the data and looking at charts based on that data. Vertically speaking, it tends to work a little more with PowerPoint and putting together presentations using PowerPoint, and frequently charts that were generated using those, the previously mentioned Excel documents are put into those PowerPoints, but then they're also given a little bit more narrative, a little more explanation for the people in the audience, like Jake said, that aren't necessarily as technical.
All right. Okay, just real quick as a closeout, we'll start at the top here. What's been your biggest accomplishment at DuPont? Starting with back at you, Arthur. What's been your biggest accomplishment at DuPont?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, I've been involved with a couple of projects now that have been pretty high profile within the corporation. Honestly, I feel like just being involved in those projects and being able to make a contribution that is going to affect, the direction that the company as a whole chooses to take, is has been really rewarding to me on a personal level.
Right. Roger, from your co-op experience, what was the biggest accomplishment at DuPont for you?
Oh, I love this question. So if you are at home, well, everybody's at home. If you Google search Tyvek drain vent, that's my biggest accomplishment and achievement. I got to work on that my first rotation at DuPont. So from the color of the material to the weight of the mesh and the spun-bound polypropylene, like all of that was based on my recommendation. So that's my little hoo-ha, like, oh yeah, I did that one. So and I got to create the testing method for it. Got to build like several walls using like plexiglass so we could see like the water penetration and how it like changed like based on like how turbulent or how quick the water was and the angle of penetration. So that's my one, is the Tyvek drain vent.
All right. Yeah, go ahead and put that in the chat for us so we can all take a look. All right, Susie, what's been your biggest accomplishment at DuPont?
So one of the first assignments from being full-time I was on the reliability work process team. So I got to see that from the start to the end, and I worked with all the reliability engineers on their presentations. So we just presented that a couple of weeks ago to kind of site leaderships and also leadership in Ireland and other sites across the globe. So it was kind of just almost like a proud moment, just having them there speaking and presenting the work process to people in higher leadership positions.
Great. And Jake, what's been your greatest accomplishment?
It's hard to pick one, really, but I would say it comes down. I've probably professionally the development of Kevlar AP and Kevlar KM2 Plus families. That was a lot of work, and we've saved a lot of lives with that product.
All right. Thank you.
I could also be cheesy and say finding Susie, Arthur, and Roderick, and hiring them as co-ops.
Excellent. Well, continue to hire more, Jake. All right. So we're ending on a high note. Thank everyone for their accomplishments to DuPont and greater society within itself. So either Laura or Michelle, any final comments or any final words for the group?
I just want to thank you all for being here tonight. On behalf of VCU Engineering and all of our students in career services, we are very, very excited and happy to have our partnership with DuPont. Love what you do for our students and really appreciate your time spending time with us today to recruit more students. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording button and we are officially done. Yay.